Hi there, everyone. This is Taylor Shanklin with Kimbia. Welcome to today's webinar featuring Beth Interactive. We're really excited to put on this webinar with Beth. It is the second webinar in a series that we started earlier in the summer. So today we're going to be taking a deep dive into looking at how Beth and her team of 3 people were able to achieve unique fundraising results, seamlessly putting things together with just 3 people. We're one of America's top hospitals. As we get going, just a quick few housekeeping items. We are going to be recording this, so if you want to watch it later, we will be sending out the slides and the recording later. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to type those into us in the questions box and go to webinar. And I'll be helping to MC. My pal Kelly here is on the line as well to help answer questions and chats that come in. So please feel free to send those in. And then at the end of the call, we will open it up for a Q&A with Beth. All right, and with that, we will get started. So I will hand over the mic to Beth here in just a minute, but I wanted to quickly introduce myself. I'm Taylor, like I said. My friends call me T. Shank. I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Kimbia, a self-proclaimed peer-to-peer fundraising boss lady, having worked in the nonprofit tech space for just about a decade now, in a variety of fashions, working with lots of different organizations on regular online giving and also peer-to-peer fundraising. I drink way too much coffee, love spending time with my 2 kiddos, and also probably sometimes imbibe in a little bit too much wine. If you want to follow me, I'm at tshankcycles on Instagram and also on Twitter. And check out what we're doing on Kimbia.com. We put up regular webinars like this and other tip sheets and things like that. If you are tuning into Kimbia for the first time, just a couple of quick announcements on what we do here. So if you're getting familiar with us. So we have an online fundraising platform that allows for nonprofit organizations to do many facets of online fundraising, event registration, peer-to-peer, and DIY fundraising. We also specialize in giving days and also allows for very customizable forms. So if you want to put up a survey or some sort of a custom form on your website, we allow you to do that. And our solution is very flexible. You can embed it into your organization's existing website, or if you have partner websites, like sponsors and corporate entities that you work with, that you fundraise with, you can even very easily embed our technology into those websites. So these are just a couple of the ways that we allow for online fundraising, some of the features of our solution, including, multi-currency, multi-language capability, many gateways, many integrations with CRM systems and social sharing and things like that. At the end, I'll have my contact information if you're interested in getting in touch with myself or Beth to talk about her expertise in working with us at Kimbia. We'd love to talk to you. And with that, I will hand the mic over to Beth.
Thanks, Taylor, and thanks to everybody who's on the call. We're really excited to have you join us this afternoon. My name is Beth Hatcher. I'm the founder and principal of Beth Interactive. We're a digital healthcare marketing agency based out of Chicago, and we're really passionate about working and partnering with our clients. Some of my interests outside of work include international travel, languages, cooking, wine. Taylor and I share that in common, and being mom to my little girl, Iris, who just turned 1 year old about 2 weeks ago. You can learn more about us at bethinteractive.com. And a few other tidbits about what we do. We have more than 11 years experience working with fundraising and healthcare organizations, hospitals, and physician practices. Our specialties really include everything within the digital realm: strategy, consultation, email marketing, search engine optimization, web analytics, and pretty much anything and everything that can be done online, we do. We focus on our client's brand, consumer experience, and measurable results with every project, and really pride ourselves on our project management, writing, meticulous attention to detail, and having very clear communication and expectations with all of our customers. So with that, we want to dive into our webinar, 15 Nonprofits, One Platform, 3 People, Unique Fundraising Made Uniquely Easy. We just wanted to start with an informal poll, nothing specific within your webinar, but how many of you have had these kinds of pain points? Difficulty setting up online registration for numerous events at the same time. Frustration because it's really difficult to have brand consistency across various facets of your organization. Have you had numerous people using your fundraising software in different ways without actually having an expert who knows specifically what they're doing? Or have you had numerous boards, your women's board, your associates board, making some pretty intensive demands of the time of your team at the same time? If you've had any of these issues, so have we. Our client, which is the foundation for one of America's top 10 hospitals, faced all of the issues when we came on board with them in 2013. So since 2013, we've been the exclusive digital marketing agency for this foundation. We provide a wide array of support to them, including digital marketing, strategy, and execution. We build all of their forms and provide email marketing and website management for their external donor events and appeals, their own internal campaigns, and the events for 14 of their affiliated organizations. So it's quite a lot of work, and we're going to be talking about how our small team of 3 people has been able to handle all of this work, and to give you some great tidbits about how you can do the same with your team. Since 2014, Kimbia has been the fundraising platform for the foundation for all of their donation and registration forms, plus their peer-to-peer fundraising campaigns. But prior to Kimbia, the foundation used a different online fundraising platform, but they really weren't happy with the product for a wide variety of reasons. The back-end interface was cumbersome to use. The front-end look and feel was very inflexible and outdated. The customization of the branding was very limited and really relied on professional design and coding expertise, which their internal team really didn't have. Also, from the database side of things, their reporting tools were not customizable, and all of this led to some really big issues with them with this platform. All of their donation, event, memorial, and tribute forms, everything was really created inconsistently. And what they had was a team of multiple users who were all struggling with the exact same product without having an expert on board. As a result, for the gift team processing team, due to all of the inconsistency within the data fields, they had to chase their tails trying to find out where the funds were supposed to be going. And ultimately, not only in terms of their time, energy, but also the visuals of their brand, it really was a poor representation of their brand and the hospital's brand. So in 2014, they decided to make the switch to Kimbia and hired us on board to handle the transition because of our experience with the previous platform and our large-scale project expertise and project management. So switching to Kimbia allowed us to rebuild the platform and do it the right way. So we began by auditing all the forms to determine which ones needed to be moved or if there were forms that really weren't being used by donors any longer. We met with the database team to make sure that we understood their needs from a reporting side of things and could best reflect them and their needs in the ongoing transition. We located all visual assets, looking at what was on their website to make sure those images were being used and could be transferred to new forms, and also made sure that any of their web pages that linked to the donation forms were categorized and cataloged, that we could link them to these new forms. And finally, and most importantly for this webinar, we defined a process for how to handle the creation, approval, and launch for all of these forms as efficiently as possible. So the end result is that in less than 3 months, we converted 87 forms, not only for the foundation, but for its 14 affiliate organizations with a team of just 3 people. So as we wonder what this transition of how to handle so many forms, we face several challenges, and that's really the goal of this webinar, is to dive into these challenges and how we solve them. The first challenge was how to create form templates that had standard questions that we could use to easily replicate these forms across a variety of campaigns. The second challenge was to have consistent copywriting. We wanted one voice for not only the foundation, but also its affiliated organizations, so we had brand and tone consistency. We also wanted to map all of the fields that we were using on these forms to the Razor's Edge database for the gift processing team. And finally, one of our biggest challenges, as I'm sure you can imagine, was meeting the disparate needs of all these different groups in a way where our initial investment in making this happen would benefit them long term. So basically, how do we do all of this quickly, cost effectively, and in a way that stays true to the foundation's brand? And that's what we're going to talk about in this webinar. The principles that we'll talk about will apply to healthcare, hospitals, nonprofits, chapters and their affiliates, and really anybody who's envisioning a digital philanthropy transition at any point in time. So the three pieces that we're going to review is how we tackled the creation of donation forms and leveraged Kimbia's flexible platform to develop an iterative process, how we tackled event forms and ended up reducing our long-term time investment by 84% over 2 years. And finally, we're going to look at our memorial and tribute forms and how we came up with a phenomenal process that ended up with a 48-to-1 ROI for the foundation. So that's what we're going to cover, and we're going to dive straight into these donation forms. So basically, how do we use Kimbia's platform to develop this process that we can leverage long-term? There's a number of steps that it took. So the first one for us was to define and use the hospital's brand guidelines. We started with a centralized copywriting model where one group wrote copy for consistent branding and terminology so that we didn't have multiple users writing different copy that didn't have a unique and consistent tone and voice. So we started by referencing the hospital, the parent hospital's style and brand guidelines. And use those as a baseline. And it included some smaller details such as your times, how your phone numbers are consistently used, and even whether healthcare is referred to as one word or two words. But these small things really have a large echoing effect in terms of the overall halo effect of what your brand looks like. We also developed our own standards, and we'll show you how this came into play a little bit later, but we wanted to make sure that every donation and event form had some introductory copy. Thank you for your gift, here's why you're giving, and here's what your gift actually goes towards, along with contact us information. A lot of the forms, when we inherited them, didn't have a phone number for someone to call for more information. And so just tackling a few of those specifics in terms of the brand for the hospital really helped quite a bit. Finally, we wanted to make sure that each affiliated organization had its own unique flair in terms of their brand, because the affiliated organizations, or AOs as we refer to them as, some of them raise money for breast cancer, some are for Brain Tumor Institute, the Digestive Health Foundation, research, cancer research. So we wanted to make sure that they had a unique flair, but that we had an underpinning of a strong copy foundation across the board. Step two was to develop the initial donation form. Basically, come up with one standard template for all donation forms that we can use in Kimbia. And this is what it looks like in the right-hand column. We'll walk through each piece of why we decided to do what we did, but it basically has information on how to make a gift. You give your donor information, you specify a little bit more about your gift, and ultimately pay. So what's great about Kimbia is Kimbia has a flexible question format, meaning you can create any question you want in any order you want and put it anywhere on the page. So because of the width of this website, we wanted to make sure that the questions spanned two different columns so it didn't scroll really far down on the page, and laid it out in a visual way that had a lot of flexibility for the foundation. This was exactly what they wanted. We also used a feature that Kimbia has called parent and child questions, which I'll explain in a second here to shorten the form. Essentially, you have a question like you would see in the right-hand column. Is this tribute gift in honor or memory of someone special? If you say no, then that's that, and you move on to the next question. But if you select yes, then a number of other child questions appear under that parent question, and then the person who is interested can fill out those additional details. So the old system, and actually a lot of different fundraising platforms, don't offer this technology, and it really allowed us to shorten the form and make it a lot more streamlined for the donor. Finally, and most importantly, we made sure to collaborate with the database team to make sure that all of the standard questions that they needed to know for their Raiser's Edge database were addressed. And what this really resulted in is us having a lot of consistency within these forms. So one of the first components we have is your Make a Gift. Previously, the foundation had a blank text box where someone would add in their donation amount by typing it in. We know that this isn't a philanthropy best practice. You want to suggest dollar amounts to your donors. So we put in that into place, along with offering an other box where someone can write in their own donation, including a minimum dollar amount, and then offering both the option for a one-time payment but also ongoing monthly payments as part of what Kimbia offers with their platform. We also made sure that the general contact information was captured consistently, whether someone was donating on behalf of an organization or not. We have a couple other questions that pop up in place, but we wanted to make sure these were the minimum number of fields that we captured for each of our donors. We also wanted to ask how the donor wanted to be recognized, which could then be used right off the bat for annual reports, and also if someone matches the gift. So again, you'll see here on the right, this is another example of a child question. If someone selects no, then there is no question underneath, but if someone selects yes, then they can simply enter in the name of their company or organization, and the foundation can follow up for more details. Another one of our standard questions is the tribute question, as we just identified. We also added a box called, why did you give? Please tell us what inspired your gift today. It's an optional question, so a donor does not have to fill it in, but it really allows us, if someone does, to know more about that donor, potentially follow up with them for other benefactor relations questions, and maybe even feature them in a donor newsletter. So this is the way we really got some good foundation and some good quotes from our donors to use long term. We also included an email opt-in, which was defaulted to yes. So if someone wanted to receive the e-newsletter that we sent out, we could automatically opt or not opt in. We also followed up with this for the affiliated organizations pages by actually adding a second question, allowing them to opt into that specific foundation or organization email list. We'll take a look at that in a minute. And finally, we wanted to make sure we provided a mail-in gift option in the footer. Some of our groups have a population that really likes to write a check and mail it in. So even though we're on a digital form, we wanted to provide an offline experience for them. So these were the fields that we created consistently for every single form to make sure that there was a lot of consistency and that the database had what they needed to have captured. We added a reporting code within Kimbia. So you can see this is the back end of Kimbia, and we wanted to make sure there was a reporting code in place so that the foundation knew where to direct those gifts. We also confirmed with the database team that every field made sense for their merge with Razor's Edge. So once this was in place, we moved on to the confirmation messages. So if you think of confirmation messages, it's a two-part step process for every form. There's your on-screen confirmation, which we don't see here, that simply says, thanks for making your gift, we're going to send you a follow-up email. And then we have what we see here, which is our email acknowledgement. So we made sure that the writing for this email acknowledgement followed the hospital's brand guidelines and also contained some consistent elements, namely a consistent subject line and headline, introductory copy that sort of, as you can see here, said, on behalf of the foundation and the patients we serve, it's my pleasure to thank you for your gift. And we use that consistently for each of the different forms we created. Our body copy describes what the gift goes on to support. We also made sure to include a paragraph on tax-deductible information to ensure that these donors were being thanked and knew that they had this tax-deductible charitable component in place. Then we always provided contact information. If someone had a question, here's who to call, here's how you can take your donation to the next level. And finally, a sign-off. Once we had the copy in place, we wanted to make sure we had consistent email branding. You'll see on the left a Kimbia screen with the email branding tab, which allows you for all of the forms within a particular campaign to use consistent email branding for every one of them. So you can set up a variety of defaults that then propagate to each of your forms, including the default from name and email address that gets added, background color and heading color. So we made sure that these were true to the foundation's brand guidelines and made sure that those came into place, along with the logo, which of course is a great brand identifier. Finally, we worked to create multiple campaigns. So once we had our standard donation form in place, we wanted to make sure that every affiliate organization used the same donation form. So we copied the form into each one of our campaigns. And you'll see on the right, Kimbia allows you to have multiple campaigns, which is a really nice feature, where you can group all of the forms for a campaign into place. So what we ended up doing was creating a campaign for every affiliate organization, which allows us to group and track the funds received. So you have at a glance the number of responses and gifts you've received and the total dollar amounts, which was really great for reporting. Then we copied the donation form template into each one of those campaigns and customized it. We did some cascading style sheets to tweak the brand a little bit to each unique organization's look and feel. And we added a few specific questions or tweaked the copy, of course, to be specific to that affiliate organization. So as I mentioned, we added a question that said, I would like to receive information about this organization a few times a year, or I'd like to receive their email newsletter. So once we put all of these forms into place, then it was time to launch them on the website. Another great feature about Kimbia is that the forms embed seamlessly within the website. So we're looking at an example of the website here, and this portion that I've highlighted in red is actually the website. That's what's controlled by your webmaster. And this form on the inside is the Kimbia form. So basically, it's as simple as adding in one line of code to this web page, and voila, the Kimbia form appears seamlessly within the website. As a result, there's no need to create a mirror website, as we call it, or basically 15 themes for the foundation and each affiliate organization. Their previous vendor, we needed to create a sort of separate website, basically, where you click through from the normal website to this new one, which looks the same, but in order to make a gift. And so we basically took away the redundancy of that by using Kimbia, where these forms just tuck up right into the existing design of the website. So what does this look like for the affiliated organization? So we see here the foundation and the standard template donation form that appeared on its website. And now here's the digestive health organization with pretty much the exact same form that just popped right onto that website. And here is an organization that promotes money for the neonatal intensive care unit, again with the same form just being added to its website. This organization raises research funds for education for doctors. This organization raises funds so that children are born without HIV. And this one finally raises breast cancer research funds. So essentially the same form just gets popped into each one of these organizations, but it's unique to their brand and allowed us to move forward with a lot of great consistency. Once we had set up this process, we wanted to make sure that we could make it iterative and set up some good standards that would assure our success in the future. Kimbia has a feature called Global Questions, which allow you to create one question that can get added to any form, but it only exists really in one place. So if you change the global question, that change then gets propagated to every form that it appears on. So for example, one of the ones for us was a contact phone number. We wanted to make sure that we had a caption that says, please enter the phone number with hyphens in between these digits to make sure we captured all 10 digits in a particular way that helps for their database. And we added what's called Gex, which is kind of super nerdy, techie way to force people to add their phone number in a particular way with those hyphens. And if they don't, we selected an error message that says, please enter your number using the correct format. So this allowed us a lot of database consistency. Once we created this as a global question and then added it to every one of our campaigns, we no longer have to create this question 15 times. We create it once. And then if we decide we want to select the phone number in a different way or change that error message, we only have to change it once and we're good to go. Another thing that we set up with Kimbia is section preset. It allows you basically to define the standard questions that you want to appear when you create a donation form or a registration form or a request for information form, which doesn't take any money typically. This can be really helpful for teams who have multiple users to give some solid standards that they can use moving forward. So once all of this is in place, we hit repeat over and over again. We follow this process for the 87 forms that we moved as part of this initial transition and the subsequent 250 forms that we've created for them in the past 2 years. Because we created such a strong templated approach, every form was essentially pre-approved by the foundation because we had worked so closely with them from the inception of it. And this meant that the approval process has been and continues to be extremely easy. We pull the confirmation messages, so basically take screenshots of what the on-screen confirmation and email acknowledgement looks like. We send them the form, and we send them the reporting codes to make sure the database team is on board. And once that's in place, it's very easy for them to approve. And in terms of documenting our methodology, the events team obviously has a lot of data that we want to be capturing on the events page, and we wanted to make sure that nothing went unnoticed. So we ended up coming up with an internal checklist that we shared with the team so they could basically check off, this is all the information we need for each event. What is the location? What is the start and end times? Are there raffle prizes? Who's the speaker? And by them just kind of checking through it, it meant that we had a lot of consistency across the board, and the events team that we worked with of about 20 people knew what we needed from them from the get-go. In terms of results of this, everybody was happy. The foundation was very happy because their forms launched very quickly with a very strong brand. The affiliated organizations were happy because their unique personality was reflected in their brands. But ultimately, of course, we invested a lot of time establishing this foundation. The next question is, how did that investment pay off for us long term? And that's what we're going to get to in our next two components, beginning with the event form, how we've reduced our time investment by 84%. So looking at fundraising events for the foundation and their organizations hold about 50 events each year. These can include galas, golf outings, cocktail parties, receptions, meetings, you name it, but it's a lot. They have a large team that makes it happen, and that's on top of their peer-to-peer fundraising events, 5Ks, and internal employee campaigns. So a lot of work, a lot of forms. For each fundraising event, typically we will build a form for registration, a separate form for donations, so we can track the money that comes in as a result of that event, and then a sponsorship form for any event that does have sponsors. So as we approach each one of these events, we've been able to leverage that initial work we put into place in the steps we just covered, but as of course you can imagine, every event has its unique needs. So one event we're going to look at specifically is the United Way Golf Outing. It's held every year. This year I think is the 16th annual year. It hosts about 220 golfers. So we started with our standard forms, but of course had to make tweaks for this event. And another Kimbia feature that we used is what's called the Form Chooser widget. And this allows us to, and allows the users to very quickly toggle between the three different forms. So here's a blowout of it. You can see there's three tabs at the top, one for tickets, sponsor, and donate. So you can set the default as the tickets, but a donor can then click on sponsor and see the sponsorship form, and donate and get to the donation form. So rather than going to three separate pages for three separate forms, we put them all into one place, so it's much easier to toggle among them. Another cool thing is if you decided to donate to the event and then realized, I do want to buy some tickets, you can click back to the ticket form and your information will pre-populate in those fields for you. Now this registration specifically, because it was a golf outing, needed a little bit of extra love. So they wanted the ability to track individual tickets if maybe 1, 2, or 3 golfers wanted to attend, or the ability to track foursome tickets. You could purchase 1 foursome or 2 foursomes. And they also had an additional $5 mulligan purchase just to add a couple extra dollars onto the registration process. So while we were able to leverage the initial work we did, to get this form just right, we did put a fair amount of time and energy into making it happen. So of course for year one, you put that initial investment in, but now that we have that form down and we've got it exactly the way we want it, we're leveraging that work in year 2 and beyond. So now anytime we launch either the golf outing or any fundraising event, here's the process that we take. We start by going into Kimbia and copying each of those 3 previous forms. Then we update, of course, the logistics, the date, time, the location, the cost as needed. Once that's in place, we update the confirmation messaging, make sure the on-screen confirmation looks and works correctly, the links are in place. If there's a new president of an organization, we add them into place and make sure the email acknowledgement reflects all of those details that we've now added to this new campaign. We add new reporting codes from the database team to make sure that these funds go to the 2016 event, not the 2015 event. Then we embed them on the website. Once we get them on the website, we can pull new confirmation messages, basically take the screenshots of those confirmation messages and send them along to the foundation for their approval. And once that's in place, we launch. So it's actually a pretty quick process now that we've got it down. And we've even found a way to collaborate even further with the events team. So at this point, the events team will actually look at what we did for step 6 in the year prior. They keep it on file, and then they'll actually just print it out and redline the changes that they want us to make. Oh, it's not September 15th, it's now September 17th. Here's the new cost. And they'll send that back to us before we even start the form creation to make this entire process even more streamlined. So we've really gotten a great process down to keep things moving very efficient. So looking at the number of hours that we spend, how much time have we been able to, how have we become more efficient over the course of the years? In 2014, it actually took us 19 hours to build those 3 forms. By the time 2015 came around, it took us fewer than 8 hours. And by the time 2016 came around, it took us 3 hours to get these forms in place. And as you might imagine, putting this amount of time and cost efficiency into place means that we get to focus more on inviting people by email and sending out other kinds of tactics to encourage attendance at this event. So we also took a look at not only the United Way golf outing, which you'll see in yellow, but 3 other events that have been held year over year over year since we've been working with Kimbia. And you can see that across the board, our time from 2014 to 2016 has decreased dramatically for every one of these events. And in fact, over these 2 years, this has resulted in an 84% reduction in the costs that we've put into place for each one of these campaigns. So it's been a great way to leverage that initial work that we did in the first place to pay off in dividends long term. So the last case study that we want to look at is memorial and tribute forms and how we've ended up creating 40H1 ROI for these forms. For hospitals, it's really important to have the ability to create in memory of or in honor of pages for grateful patients and their families very quickly. A lot of times a patient might pass and decide that they want to donate in lieu of flowers any gifts to an organization connected with the hospital, Brain Tumor Institute, a doctor, a research fund. And because this often happens quickly at end of life, we need the ability to make these pages very quickly so that the link can be promoted in an obituary. And of course, it's a great practice for your grateful patients and families who want to raise money for you. You want to make sure that you can give them excellent service as quickly as possible. So knowing this, we came up with a consistent template for our memorial and tribute pages to make the setup really easy and efficient. And you can see an example in the right-hand column. This, of course, is not a patient. We created this based on our templates. But what's really great about this form is the ability to embed that donation form right into the memorial page. There's no extra click, no extra barrier to entry for people to donate. When they come here, they can complete the transaction, and that's what it is. So taking a closer look both at the web page itself and then the email acknowledgement that we send out as a result, we came up with a very small number of variable items that change from form to form. And because we know exactly what they are and exactly where they go, it's very easy for us to just plug and play. We add them and we're able to finish the form. So those items include the patient's name, which is reflected not only in the web page and in the footer if someone wanted to give a mail-in gift, but also in that email acknowledgement. So the patient's name goes into those different places. If the family wants to provide us with a photo of the patient, the photo can go in place there, or of course we can set it up where no photo is visible. We have a section for introductory copy. This can be as simple as, thank you for making a gift in memory of this person. All funds will support this research organization and we'll let the family know of your thoughtful gift. That's the simplest we have it. Sometimes families want to give us a pretty long obituary, which we're able to populate here. Sometimes it's the spouse or partner of the family member who has passed who wants to write a note to their friends and family members. So we have the ability to be pretty flexible here based on whatever the patient wants to give us. In terms of the designation, then, we always show where those funds go to, both in the web page and the email acknowledgement, so that they know where their gift, what their gift supports. We also include the recipient family name. We'll notify the spouse or we'll notify the appropriate family of the thoughtful gift, and that gets put into place as a variable item as well. Finally, we make sure that the reporting codes on the back end are constructed correctly so that all these funds go to the right place, and that's it. Everything else follows our standard template. So once we get this into place and once we get the information from the family, we can very quickly turn it around. We also came up with some web page templates to make sure that we can have different looks based on the information we get from the family, but again, that it's very quick for us to turn this around. So one option is no photo and very minimal text. Another option is one photo and a medium amount of text, or of course, if a family wants to give us 2 to 4 photos of their loved ones, we can accommodate that as well. And you can see the different text amounts. These two components can operate completely independently. We could have no photo, but a lot of copy, and we found a way to make that work and turn around really quickly. So this gives us a chance to be very flexible. And in terms of the results, it's allowed us to turn around any request within 1 business day or less. It typically takes us fewer than 30 minutes to get one of these pages set up. It's an extremely efficient process. As a result, of course, we can provide excellent service to these grateful patients and their families, especially in very difficult times. So over the course of the past 2 years, we've created at least 60 forms and have received gifts from 830 donors for over $100,000. So on average, each donation form that's visited receives 24 gifts on average, an average gift of $118, which is quite high, which means that each average tribute page raises nearly $3,000 for the hospital or its organization, which with our time investment ends up giving us a 48-to-1 ROI. So some really excellent results with a great initial investment up front. So that's what we wanted to cover today. We hope we've given you a chance to think about ways that you can do more with less with a small team, really take advantage of your online fundraising platform's capabilities and create a good methodology in place to leverage that initial investment. We'll be sending to your inbox the slides from this presentation, the recorded webinar, and a best practices tip sheet. And if you have any questions about Kimbia's platform, or if you want to learn more about how your organization can do a lot with a small team, don't hesitate to contact Taylor or myself. We are here and happy to answer any questions that you have. Taylor, I'll give it back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Beth. Thanks for going through that. And exactly, just to reiterate, if you've got questions for us, for Beth and myself, you've got our contact information, please feel free to email us or call us directly. As I had just a couple of questions that came through to me on the question box. And one of them is about looking at how you showed the embeddable form options. Is that something that's easy to do on the website? Do I need coding skills? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Definitely. It is very easy. So on Kimbia's forms, there's a button that generates, it's less than one line of code. So if you're the webmaster or you work with your webmaster, you give them this one line of code and they'll put it into the source code of the page, and that's it. So it's extremely easy. It works really efficiently, but no, it's not difficult to do. Anybody can do it.
Cool. And then last other question is, do you have any additional tips for how you manage how you might have lots of different people at an organization using the software?
Yeah, that's a great question, and definitely one that we've encountered firsthand. You know, our process was basically to centralize everything. Really, all forms, all requests come through us, but that may not be feasible with your team. So if you have multiple users, I think starting with training up front is a really great component. And I think having documented guidelines is really critical, whether that's an internal checklist like we mentioned for the events team, or just a step-by-step process for your team. Insert reporting codes, check it with this person, make sure these questions are addressed, make sure these fields are in place. We find that especially with multiple users, they tend not to be in the system every day. So it's really easy, especially with all their other job responsibilities, to forget everything that needs to be accommodated. So we find providing paper documentation or some kind of step-by-step documentation helps a lot. Another thing that I would recommend would be to have one user on your team be the super user or the expert, or at least close enough to the expert so that they can answer some of those questions. In our case, you know, we were the team that provided final look at every form so that there was consistency across the board. And I think if there's one person who maybe either in that user group or at a higher level can look at and sign off on those forms, that way you can ensure there's some consistency and one person is kind of keeping an eye out for all of those different pieces that are in play. And I think, you know, a third component would be just a lot of internal communication. You know, on my team of 3, we all look at each other's forms to make sure we haven't missed something. We always start with a call among the 3 of us to make sure that we've addressed every question that we have. So I think the more collaboration that comes into place and the less that users feel like they're on an island doing this on their own, the better results you're going to have long term.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Awesome. Well, any other questions? We've got some more time. We've finished up a little bit early, but if you have other questions, I'll just say last call to type in questions if you've got one for us. And one thing we will be doing when we send out the recording and the slides is we also will provide you with this handy dandy little tip sheet that you see on the last slide there. So we'll send out the whole full tip sheet PDF for you as well. All right, well, I don't see any other questions coming in, so I just want to thank everyone for their time today. And again, reach out to us if you have questions or want to talk more about any of this or anything else. Thank you so much, and thank you so much to Beth. We love working with you.
Thanks, my pleasure. Thanks to all.
All right, bye-bye.